Hello, everybody. This is Sue Frederick, and I'm so excited to have another mystical conversation with you. The kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. A mystical conversation happens when we lift above our ego mind and we review our life from that higher view of divine inspiration. Hi, I'm Sue Frederick. I'm the author of 8 books, including Through a Divine Lens, Bridges to Heaven, and I See Your Dream Job. I'm a lifelong intuitive master numerologist, ordained unity minister, and soul regression therapist. I've helped thousands of people just like you navigate their way through this dense and difficult realm that we call life. If you want to know more about my work, you can go to SueFrederick.com. Meanwhile, I have such a treat for you today. Oh my goodness. My guest is a personal friend and a profound mystical healer. Her name is Debra Martin. Let me read her bio. She's a world-renowned intuitive healer and an international research lab certified medium with the Windbridge Research Center. Debra is a spiritual coach, a survivor of 3, get that, 3 near-death experiences, and a survivor of cancer, and an author of 6 books. Her most recent book, Proof of Miracles, she'll show you the cover in just a minute. It's a book that you should have, and Doctor's Faith and Courage. Debra had her 3rd near-death experience on January 21st, 2012. 1, 2, 1, 2, all those 1s and 2s, all my numerology peeps. And she had an out-of-body experience and a conversation with God. From this experience, her mediumship abilities heightened, and she was given the gift to heal. Debra has developed a unique healing technique, which is not being done anywhere else in the world. Let me just tell you, she uses her body, her own body, as a proxy for your healing. So she offers her body up to be healed by the spiritual surgeons and by God as a proxy for you. And I'm going to tell you about how that works in a minute because I got to experience it. And she's also a motivational speaker, and she's been on many radio networks such as Coast to Coast with George Norrie, Hay House Radio, and she was recently featured on Gaia Network, the Beyond Belief with George Norrie show. So, Debra, hello, my friend.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's so nice to always see you.
You know, for our listeners, you guys know that my husband, Gene, was diagnosed with cancer in 2018. We moved here so he could go through treatment at Mayo, moving to Phoenix, Arizona. And he came out of treatment, and then his PSA numbers started to kind of climb. And so I was in this area and I started reaching out, asking about healers. And everyone said he has to work with Debra Martin. And so I looked you up, Debra, and you did a proxy healing thing for him, which was life-changing. And I just want to tell you right now, his PSA numbers have declined constantly, slowly since then. And he was even at the doctor last month, and the doctor said, you know, you're 5 years out from diagnosis and your numbers are still going down. Like, they gave him a death sentence. They did not believe that he would live 5 years, and his numbers continue to go down. So thank you, Debra, for saving my husband.
I just overwhelmed right now listening to that because I don't always hear everything. I'm hearing this for the first time. And when you do, it impacts me to tears. Like, thank you, God. And healing can be a
Explain how you
process.
do it. Explain how you do it.
Okay, so if you contact me for a healing, you're going to send me a full body picture so that I can become your proxy. And what I do is I take that picture and I pray on it before. Some people like to tell me what they're dealing with, and I put that into the prayer, but I don't limit it to that because I don't want it to be like, what if something else is causing it, right? And so then when I go into the actual healing, I will lay down, place that picture on my abdomen, and then let go and let God take over. So I'm speaking the entire time what is happening in this healing. So I'll see spiritual surgeons, I'll see, maybe feel God. And when God enters, just like what happened now, that presence, I felt overwhelmed and you want to cry. And, I start taking on different things in your body. And sometimes things will come through that was even in your past. Like you don't remember when you were a child, things that were traumatized. We kind of pushed that down. Some of those things might come up just to heal, but it's miraculous. And I take people on spiritual journeys to see their loved ones and to have embraced, some people smell them, some people feel them, and just have a conversation. It's just magical.
And I'll also say that I, of course, after Gene did his, I thought, well, I got to experience this because I was having pain in my pancreas and it was scaring me. I was afraid that I had cancer, which is, my husband died of cancer in 1979, and a bunch of people I love died of cancer. So I don't want to die of cancer. Like, I'm happy to cross over, but I don't want to go that way. So we called on Debra, and Debra did a session with me. And I was just laying in my bed in my house here. She gives you the time and says, this is the time that I'll be doing your session, but you don't hear her, you don't see her. She's in her sacred space doing it. And so I was laying down and I was taking note of, oh, wow, it's about 10 minutes into the session and I'm feeling this or that, or I'm feeling my pancreas is tingling, or I'm seeing the divine realms that I go to in my meditations. And I was kind of taking mental note of everything I was experiencing. And when the hour is over, she sends you the recording and you can compare it with what you were feeling. Well, it was completely in sync with everything I was feeling. Like at the moment where she says, the spiritual surgeons are doing this and that in your pancreas, that's exactly when my pancreas was tingling. And it was just so beyond realistic and it was like mystical going to heaven for healing experience for me.
Thanks for saying that, because people are like, well, why can't it be in person? And I'm like, no, it's so much more magical if you are not, because you're in your sacred space. You don't have to fly here. You don't have to have that expense, and you can just be relaxing in your own bed if you want. And
Right.
and it is really, really profound when all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I felt that while it was happening. And then you listen to it and you're like, we're so in sync. And that's the beauty of it. We become one in that
That is
session.
it. Yes.
One with the divine, one with each other. And it's just proof. It's proof that that's what's happening.
And it's proof that spirits, as divine beings, which we all are, we are infinitely connected. There is no separation between us. It is only the physical body, the human mind, the ego that makes us feel separate from each other. But when we meditate, or when you do something like this with Debra, you are lifting up above that physical separation illusion, and you are completely merged in the divine with her. And with any healer who's working from the spirit realms, that's the way you feel. But Debra really accomplished this. And I just got to ask you, as girlfriend to girlfriend, why did your soul choose this incredibly challenging lifetime? 3 near-death experiences, car accidents, almost dying of an undiagnosed illness, then getting cancer, on and on and on. Tell me why, girl.
Well, I really think that we learn from our experiences, right? And so each one kind of built on themselves and taught me these lessons to be where I am today. So had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be the healer that I am. And I think the most challenging one was when I got cancer. Like, how can I get cancer as a healer? Do I share this? Do I voice this? What are people going to think? And I'm like, no, I'm human too, right? I'm going to get these experiences. And I was like, but I have enough compassion. What do you want me to learn from this? And I didn't know how it, the ending was going to be. So I started writing that book, Doctor's Faith and Courage, and put my prayers in there for everybody to kind of walk through the journey themselves with me through their own cancer or whatever they're dealing with. And what was amazing with this is I learned so much. I learned that cancer was not my beast. It was my beauty in the beast. I learned that now when I'm helping someone heal from cancer, I'm not looking through that door. I'm standing on their other side with them. So, we don't choose what's going to happen to us, but if we can look at them as face and ask the question, what do you want me to learn from you? Why are you here? What did this happen? So many people are like, oh, that happened. And they let that weight stay on them and they hold it forever. No. Embrace it. Walk through it. It can be your hardest times can bring your greatest blessings.
I think one of the things you've taught me is, we always talk about the war on cancer, right? And if somebody gets cancer, they go, I'm going to fight it. And even if they cross over from cancer, like in their obituary, it'll say they launched a gallant war against cancer until the end. But you have a totally different take on this. So explain that.
I do. So when you see Army for love, Army doesn't mean fight. Army means we're building an army around us, like spirit from the other side. God is, they're surrounding all of you, all sides. That's the number 4. But you're also building the army of people that surround you and support you. And what are we supporting with? Love, right? And so I chose to send love to my cancer. It's like, think of your body as a child and nourish it and hold it and embrace it. And during that time, you're loving yourself and you're loving that cancer, and love heals.
That's it. I wish the medical world could learn about this, because you have such a different understanding, an enlightened understanding that our bodies, our cells are part of our spirit. They're connected to our energy. And if we're hating on our own body and trying to heal it that way, I mean, that's not gonna work. We have to love our body with all of its challenges and maybe illnesses in order to love it back into cellular alignment, right? Isn't that what you do?
Yeah, it's that vibration, when somebody gives you that hug, you feel good, right? You just feel like, oh, that felt so great. So you're hugging yourself, and that vibration is raising within you, which is just like exploding and healing you within.
Tell me about, I know that the most significant near-death experience you had was when God basically told you you needed to do this kind of healing. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, briefly, because they can read it in my book here, Proof of Miracles. So I'll just say that when I crossed over, I did see spiritual surgeons in the room. And it's interesting because now spiritual surgeons are working with me, right? And so when I went to the other side, when I took that breath while they were working on me, I was just like, I just got to be in another space. And I felt myself transcending. And I can tell you, I was like, oh, where am I going? What's happening? And you're having an out of body experience. And now I'm traveling there. I wasn't just automatically there. Right. So that becomes like almost like delusional, like, oh my gosh, where am I going? And then when I landed, it was like all this white around me. And I'm like, okay, now what? I'm here by myself. Right. So it ended up being just beautiful. I was watching my body being held by God. So my soul's now out of my body, and I'm seeing this all transpire. And I ended up having a conversation with God that day. And, I was on borrowed time, and I really wanted to stay. It was beautiful. I felt safe. I felt loved. I wanted to see my parents. He's like, nope. And I know why now, because if I would have saw them, there's no way I would have came back. But on that day, I took an oath. I took an oath with God that I would come back, and this would become my mission as a healer. And not knowing what that meant, and coming back, I lost everything that was stable for me. I was like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me this part. I might not have chose this to take this mission. But I look back now and go, it was all worth it. And like I said, those hardships got me to where I am today.
You know, I know a little bit about your story in that when you started doing this kind of healing, your husband couldn't walk the journey with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was really sad for me because it was like when you're facing something, I mean, even in spirituality, right? Some of us can't share this with other people, you know, or they can't share it with family members because they think that they're woo-woo, right?
Right.
And so it was really hard because I'm like, you know me, like, you know who I am. I'm not making this up. And it was like, well, why you? And I go, why not me? Right? Why not anyone? We
Well,
are all have our gifts in certain ways.
and you know, when we look at it from the soul's point of view, it really means that his soul agreement with you, he couldn't raise his vibration. He wasn't ready to raise his spiritual awareness enough to walk with you through it, which means someone better is coming always.
Thanks. Well, I know that, I feel that, and I do thank him for that, because if he would have said, okay, you can do this on the side, I'd have one foot in, one foot out, and I needed to be fully in.
Right.
So I do thank him for standing in his truth, and we're friends today.
That's really good. There's so many things I want to ask you. I'm just trying to remember them all. We'll come back to the spiritual surgeon conversation. I want to get back to that. But how did you come up with the idea, or how did God give you the idea to use your own body as the proxy for healing?
Well, it's interesting because I used to see people in person, so that's how I was starting, and I would put them on top of the healing table, and I'd go below the table. And at that time, I knew I was connecting with them, right? And it just kind of naturally formed. I didn't know, but as you go through, it's kind of like you're learning, right? You're being taught. I was seeing the spiritual surgeons come into the room, and then all of a sudden I started feeling the pain. And that is a gift. People are like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. You're going through all that pain for me. How do you do that? That's a gift because I don't deny where it's happening. Right. I mean, when that was that pancreas, that was painful.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're both going through that pain, but sometimes we have to feel to heal. And that makes it real for you as well. And so it was just a process. And I just feel like every healing gets better and better. Like I just feel so heightened right now that what I can tell people of what I've learned is we as humans put limitations on things, right? So when we get a diagnosis of, oh, you have Alzheimer's, what do we think? Oh,
Right.
right. Well, that's a scientific name. God didn't put that name there. It's like we call a tree, and we don't go, oh, right? So get rid of the name, get rid of the term, get rid of the limitations, and know everything is possible with God and everything is reversible. Just don't, once we give that limitations, we're giving power to it.
Yeah.
We don't want to give power to it.
I also wanted to tell people that after I did the healing session with Debra, I never again felt that pain. It was gone immediately. And I went and had a scan. My doctor had seen me before the session, and she had felt, and I had like winced, you know, when she had touched that area. And so she'd said, okay, we'll do a scan. But then I had Debra's healing, and then I did a scan, all clear, every organ completely clear. Now, I don't have a scan from before, but I can tell you that there was a pain before that was completely gone when I worked with Debra and I got my all clear scan. So thank you, Debra. And
And you know
the
what, I
other,
just want to say too, real quick, like sometimes we don't need that evidence. We just need to trust, right? Like people think like, well, doctors can't find what's wrong with me. Maybe there's a reason because they don't want you to hang on to what that was,
yes,
right? Because then we own it. Oh, I once had.
I
Now
know.
it's like, oh, I never had it. It's never part of me. It's gone.
I
Yay.
agree with that. I mean, I have always kind of believed that we spend too much time seeking the name of the illness, you know, because we're looking for the diagnosis. And once we get it, we're like a dog with the bone. Like that's how we identify ourselves, right? And
Right.
yet that's not who we are. We are divine beings who are all powerful, all knowing, and our normal state as divine beings is perfect health. You are, in a way, just getting us back to who we're here to be, our normal, glowing, perfectly healthy divine self.
That's so right. We're all magnificent and we were born magnificent. We don't lose that magnificent. You know, that light within us gets dim at times when we take on those labels. But we need to like put the label aside, give it to God, let it go, and turn that light back up.
That's right. Also, I want to talk about your mediumship abilities. You're
Okay.
still doing that, right, Debra?
Yes, I
Yes.
am.
So one of the things I love about how you work as a medium is it's kind of the way I work. I mean, I work through numbers, but you and I sort of like to say, okay, who is it that you want to connect to? You know, you ask it in your way before the session, and I ask it, you know, give me the name and first name and date of birth of the person you're grieving for. And then I put my hand on that and meditate through the numbers. And just like you said, I spend a day with them the night before. I'll have dreams of them. I'll get automatic writing. And that's how you explain how you do it too, in your way.
Yes. So in the science world, when I was tested with Windbridge, they would give you a relationship. It's a son, it's a father. And so I've kind of come in like, that's just my way now because that's how I was tested. And I've learned too, like, if I don't do that, and like, let's say the grandmother comes through and they're like, I don't want to talk to my grandmother, right? So now we've wasted 15 minutes talking to a grandmother. So I call it a direct connect. Let's just go right to who you want to speak with, it's your day. So you're right. I know the night before, and I know that day prior, and I'm taking notes before I even, get on the phone. It's beautiful because it's like I'm having a connection, getting to know them before I even make that call.
Yeah, Debra, you are the only person in the world besides myself who works that way. And I got to say, you're the Capricorn, I'm the Virgo. It's like, I don't want to waste people's time, right? We are just down to earth, realistic people. And so if somebody's coming to do a session with me, like you said, I don't want to spend 20 minutes figuring out who the right spirit is that we need to connect to. I want to have already connected and called them in and gotten their words through my writing. Like, I just don't want to waste any time here, right?
Well,
Just
that's
like
just
you.
it. Yeah. And let's get to it. And people like, I don't need to be tested by you. And that's
Right.
what I think people are coming into these sessions
That's
with the
right.
mediums right
That's
now. And I've
right.
noticed
Yeah.
that. And it's really disheartening. And I think it's because they're seeking medium after medium and they're kind of comparing.
Right.
Don't do that because one medium that's really, really good might not be able to get the information for you. That doesn't mean that she's bad. That just means that maybe that spirit's telling you. I had a session once where the spirit was debunking me. Everything that I was said was wrong. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I said, oh, excuse me, how many sessions have you had? And there she's like 12 or 15. And I said, he's telling me you need to live in your world, not my world. And he's going to make sure that everything's wrong because you already can do it.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is that, you know, we're not, I don't believe, those of us who are trying to help grieving people, we're not here to do parlor tricks for them. We're really here to talk about their soul journey and their soul agreement with their departed and how they are supposed to be moving forward in their life. If a person does not believe in anything beyond the physical world, we can't change that. They have to change that in their own heart and open up to trust. Once they've made that intention, they're going to open their heart and trust and quiet the mind, the cynicism. They'll start having so many profound signs on their own that it'll blow them away. And then when they come and work with people like you and me, we're adding more dimension, more information, more to it. But each person has to walk the journey from cynicism to trust and faith. And, you know, even in the Bible, one of my favorite quotes, faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the belief in things unseen. That's from the Bible, people. So
Wow, that's
this
beautiful.
is what real faith is knowing yes, my spirits are there, and I will use different people to help me use language to communicate, but I know that I can communicate on my own as well.
Well said. It's beautiful.
So if they want to do a mediumship session with you, they'll go to goldenmiracles.com as well. Is it the same website?
Yes, and I have a waiting list right now that's kind of closed, but I will give them someone that I refer to right now because
Mhm.
I have so many people that are wanting healings right now that I don't want to just say, oh yeah, I'll put you on a waiting list. And then I don't feel that's fair. You know, like you can be there for so long, but then it's like, here, I'm going to be honest and I'll tell you where I would place you because I wouldn't place you anywhere that I wouldn't trust the other person for myself.
That's beautiful. And, you know, I've had the blessing of getting to know a number of different mediums in the area. And like you said, they're all different. They bring it through in beautiful, different ways. You
Right.
know, it's almost like you get to go to a smorgasbord and like, I'll take a little of her, a little of her, a little of him.
Yeah.
And it just fills your consciousness with so many amazing mystical conversations with spirit.
Right. And you'll find the right one. Your spirit will guide you to that.
Right, right. The other thing I love so many things about you, Debra, but my numerology peeps will appreciate that you're on the Capricorn 1 path. So think about it, numerology people. She came to overcome self-doubt and create her own vision, her own path, take the path less traveled and become the leader, the spiritual visionary. And the Capricorn was so that she would make it grounded, make it real. Now, when you hear her life story, every one of those near-death experiences, illnesses, divorce, it was all making her choose to believe in herself even when the world said, oh, that's poo-poo to the woo-woo. She kept choosing, no, this is really a gift. This is something I can use to help the world. So she is the spiritual healing visionary of the Capricorn 1. And the other thing that's interesting for you is that this year, 2023, is a 7 personal year for you, and the calendar year is a 7. So this must be the most spiritually aligned year ever for you. And you do have a new book coming out. It's got to come through you this year in the 7 year.
Oh my, I would have never thought that, but ooh, I got the chills with it. I trust. Ah, 7 books. Oh my.
Yes.
And thank you for that. I feel it. What you're saying, I feel it. It's kind of like a knowingness within me,
Yeah.
and it's already happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about spiritual surgeons, because when people hear that, usually they don't know what that means. And I've experienced it working on me. Actually, even before I even met you, let me just share a dream. It was back when my baby Sarah had just been born and I was having some problems, and I didn't want to have health problems that would interfere with my way of being a mom, because I was 43 when she was born. I knew I'd never have another baby. She was my miracle child. So before I went to sleep one night, I put out the call, you know, God, come and fix me. And because I had just given birth, the veil was very thin. You know that feeling. It's like when we give birth, we open up in every chakra. And that night, there were people in the bedroom working on something in my head. And like it was a team of people, and I knew they were there. I felt them. They were there all night. And I woke up with that problem never surfacing again. Is that what you mean by spiritual surgeons?
I do. And it's a great question because some people will say, well, I just want God to be working through me. I don't want somebody else to be working through me. Well, spiritual surgeons come in all different, like the heart surgeon, like it really is for that area. And God works through those surgeons too. So don't think that it's like, okay, then I'm not getting healed by God. Oh no, that's all encompassed, but I'm able to see these spiritual surgeons so they're letting me know where they're working. I just did a group session, a global group. Before I even started, I looked over to the healing table. I must have saw 50 different surgeons, all preparing the room because they were going to each work on different parts of the body and take their time. It was a team. It's a team effort. And it's just, I'm in awe every single time. It's so mystical. Like I get so many, like I had this miracle, I had this miracle, and you put it all together as one group and you're like, look at, that's where all those spiritual surgeons came into play.
Yes. Do you believe that when a really evolved doctor or spiritual or regular surgeon crosses over at the end of their life, if when they go to the divine realms, we get a job sort of like to come back and help in certain ways, do you think they say, oh yeah, I'll go be a spiritual surgeon, I'll join that team and I'll work from here to help people?
I really do believe that. Father William Tracy, he was the oldest priest in the world here. What he said is, when I pass, my mission isn't going to end. I'm going to continue it from the other side. And so they use their gifts. We're born with those gifts. So we're just going to heighten them even more and do more. Plus, you know what? Those surgeons, it becomes kind of like let's see if we can even go deeper, because now they're doing it on a spiritual level. I just did a session the other day and I had two spiritual surgeons working on the brain, and I saw their faces afterwards like, we did that. Like, this is amazing. We did that. And it was like kind of like a aha for them. But I saw their faces. I saw this excitement, and you can't make this stuff up, because that's what I'm saying.
That's the blessing of doing it for a living. Like a lot of people say, oh, well, everybody has different gifts. You should do it on the side, but you should have this daily grind job, the conventional job. And I've always fought against that. Like I wrote a whole book years ago, I See Your Dream Job, because I think we're each here to find that gift, that talent. You found yours, I found mine, and to stand up in the world loud and proud and make it our career, our living, because then we put all of our energy into it, all of our focus. It lifts us up. It takes us into more learning and growth. And every day we get to experience the mystical. What could be better than that?
That's how I feel too. It's like my family members are like, you should just get a job like part-time at Lululemon.
Right.
Just have fun. And I'm like, okay, guys, like, then I can't put my whole focus, like writing a book or doing the things on the side. You're always preparing. You're always bringing that balance in. And if, let's just say I go work at the mall, okay? Then all of a sudden I have all this energies, these, coming at me. And now I got to come home and cleanse that. I have to get rid of that before I can go now into a session. So I'm really, really careful. And you know this very well. I don't really go out too much.
You're talking to the world's greatest recluse here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's just like, where we do go and speak, that they're like-minded people, right? And so you have to be careful, like I do, where we're going and what we're doing, and it really makes a difference. And so that's what I say is like, just I couldn't do two. Then I'm saying to my husband, I'm leaving you, but I'm still going to have one foot in, one foot out.
Right.
That wouldn't make any sense.
This is such an important principle, Debra, because there are so many talented, gifted people out there who could be healers, who could be intuitives, who could be all kinds of woo-woo careers and actually make a living from it. But the world tells them that that's impossible, or that that's not the way to do it. Or even there's this myth of, oh, well, you should give that away as service, your gift. But I look at it differently and say, imagine if all of us here on earth used our spiritual gift, our healing gift, our woo-woo gift to make our living, to help each other, to raise vibration, to not be miserable in a job all day. The consciousness of earth would shift into a higher vibration immediately. I think we would evolve in that moment to our divine selves completely, because right now so much anger, hatred, frustration is in people's hearts, all about their job, their career, their boss, their this, their that. Liberate yourself, people.
Well, you're right, because we would be all about love.
Right.
right? We'd be
Right.
loving each other and healing each other and all in that same vibration, and that just expands,
Right.
right? And so it's just like you're spreading it, you're receiving it, it just becomes beautiful and divine. And and yes, everybody should be paid, because some people say that to me too, like, well, if this was a God-given gift, then why are you charging?
Right.
I don't think they understand all the work behind the scenes and all, all
Right.
the cost and what we have to pay outwardly in order to do this work. And if I didn't, then I'd have to go work at a Lululemon.
Right. And the other thing is, God gives us a gift so we can use it to make our living. Money is energy. There's nothing evil about money.
No, and
Money
that's
is energy. So we put out our gift with energy. We take back energy as money so that we can continue to do it. This is like a principle of prosperity that everyone can align with.
and nobody should limit anything. Just so
Right.
people know,
Right.
don't limit anything, and just know, everything's divinely orchestrated,
Completely.
I should say.
So, what would you say to someone who right now maybe got a terrible diagnosis and they're in fear, they're in anger, all the negative emotions that hit us when we get that, and they're looking around thinking, should I go see a mystical healer like Deborah, or if I can't afford that, how do I, maybe they should start with your book. Like, what is your recommendation to them?
Well, my group sessions are affordable for everybody. Okay, so that and I've had people 100% healed in groups. So
And how
people
do
like
people find that?
through my website, goldenmiracles.com.
Perfect.
Yes, and so I don't want them to think like I can't have the private. Yes, in the private is words are going to come through just for you, but in the healing, it's just, the more that gathers, look at, we all have that same intention, everything just heightens. It's beautiful. And so I would tell them, you have to walk through these emotions. We can't just say, okay, I'm just going to give them to God and they're going to be gone. I'm not going to deal with it, because emotions are something we have to walk through. It's part of your healing. So you have to face them, but then you have to say, how is this serving me? Right. At some point, how's this serving? What's best for me? For me, Doctor's Faith and Courage, I've in that book, I had to use every tool in the toolbox. I was stage 4. So it's like, what do I do? Do I just do the healing part? And I felt, no, I'm going to do my part and I'm going to combine everything. And so sometimes we
That's
have
an
to do that.
important point for the listeners. When Deborah was diagnosed with cancer, even though she was a healer, she also did what her conventional doctor was telling her, along with her own mystical healing. Is that correct, Deborah?
Yes, it goes hand in hand. And so I'll see people that, went through all their leukemia, let's say, right? And now they can't give them treatment anymore. So healing's the next step. Or you're healing as you're receiving treatments. People come for the group and just keep coming monthly because they want to just keep adding that into their treatments as a treatment. So it goes hand in hand. I don't want you to think that you have to have one or the other.
Right.
Trust your intuition, trust your guidance. And it comes down to trusting the healer, because there's lots of healers out there. And just like you have to trust your doctor. If you don't like the doctor, you know, you don't have to go to that doctor. I want you to have a relationship. I have a relationship with God. He's the doctor. You have a relationship with your doctors. You have a relationship with the divine. It all goes hand in hand.
Yeah. It's like we have a team of spirits we call on to help us, whether they're our departed, our angels, our guides, God. We have a spiritual team, but we also have to put together our physical world team of, a conventional doctor we trust, a healing doctor, a healing spiritual healer like you that we trust, like put together that team as well as we walk through whatever challenges and gifts that are in our path here. So well said. And I'm so glad you can encourage people, no, you don't have to make that terrifying choice that I'm not going to do conventional treatment. That's such an angst-ridden choice for people when they've been diagnosed. People, please know you can use both. We walk in the physical and the divine at once here. So use both kinds of healing modalities.
Well, when I was going through radiation, you're intimidated by that machine. So I'm going to talk about like emotions. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, right. So the next day I decided, no, now I'm not going to go in with that fear. I'm going to embrace that machine because God made that machine for me. So that became my God time,
I
right?
love
I'm
that.
going to be in that machine. And that's where I got the Army for Love, in that machine. It was like, build your army, Deborah. Start building that. And it, wearing the Army for Love, people wear it to treatments, knowing it's a reminder, let them know they're not alone.
Right.
They're not alone. And so when I was in those treatments in that room alone, I was not alone. I remember telling the lady that put the blanket on me every day. And the very last day she cried. She said, I'm going to miss putting this blanket on you, because I told her what it resembled, what the resemblance of that blanket was, the symbolism. It was God's blanket. It was white, and he was wrapping me in that blanket as I was being held during that radiation. So use those kind of tools that are around you to embrace yourself with that love, and know that you're being held and not alone during some terrifying times.
God, it's so beautiful, Deborah. So please, anybody listening, go to her website, goldenmiracles.com. Get a copy of her book, Proof of Miracles. Join one of her group sessions if you can't afford an individual session. But put your team together and call on Deborah.
The other thing I have too is a monthly, it's called Army for Love Gatherings. It's free.
Good.
And so people all around the world will come in, and they want to talk about their illness. They want to talk about their fear. They want to ask for guidance. This is a place where you can feel sacred, you can feel safe, or you might just want to come join and be quiet for the first time and see what we're all getting. And we hold each other's hands. Everybody's has knowledge to share. And so, and then I do a little 5-minute mini healing at the end just to raise our vibration. So it's beautiful. And I welcome everybody.
Aw. Well, thank you all so much for listening. It's been an honor talking to the amazing Deborah Martin at goldenmiracles.com. And I'm Sue Frederick at SueFrederick.com. And if you liked this mystical conversation, please subscribe to the podcast and also to my YouTube channel so that we can do more of these amazing conversations. Thank you so much, everybody. And so it is.